Welcome to the Chris Jericho and John Cena podcast. I should say John Cena podcast with Chris Jericho on it because that was all about John. Okay, first thing I want to say, I did enjoy the podcast to see how the man thinks. Now, did I believe everything he said? Oh, hell no. There was some bullshit in there. But there was one thing that was never mentioned. And if I missed it, you guys tell me below. I don't remember John Cena or Chris Jericho ever talking about The Undertaker. Not once. I have no fucking idea what the hell is going on between those two. Somebody got insulted or pissed off to the point where Mark Calloway does not work with John Cena. I did a video on this a long time ago. John Cena and Undertaker. What a pity. They never had their WrestleMania match. Something went on that pissed off The Undertaker or pissed off John Cena, and they're not mentioning each other at all. Whatever's going on is whatever's going on. But what was the podcast about? Well, it was mostly about how we, the fans, feel about John Cena. Because the very opening of the show, of the podcast, Chris Jericho says, "Hey, I saw on there you got 2 new moves. What do they call it? They say it's the 5 moves of doom. You got 2 more moves." They are literally poking at the fans who don't like John Cena. And this was all about addressing that. Addressing how the fans don't like what he does. But this is the reason why I do it. Now, I respect that. I'm going to say this about John. For what he does outside the WWE, we know, no question, big props, respect. Not everyone is willing to do that. So, no matter if you like the man or not, we can always say that he does care about children. He does do that. But when you go beyond that, John really is John to the point where he's not willing to change for anybody. And that's the wrong type of attitude in the business unless you have enough to back it up. Now, one thing I did feel that was good to hear. How he worked with different people. Like, he worked with many different people. He worked with Kurt Angle. He worked with Chris, of course. He worked with several other people. The person that he respected the most was William Regal, which I do myself respect William Regal. I did enjoy hearing the story about him in one of his first dark matches with William Regal basically telling him, "Look, do me a favor, at least get a good pair of boots so you look like a wrestler," because he stunk so bad. That, I did enjoy hearing that. But if we're going to look at for what we look at it, the thing that got me, that truly I think is total bullshit, because we'll talk about some other stuff, is this. When Chris confronted him about saying, "Look, what's the reason why you don't change your character? A lot of people like to see you turn heel or do something." John said it like this. He said, "I love this business and I will do whatever I can to make it interesting and basically compelling. I don't care about any other place." He didn't say this in this segment. He did say it throughout the entire podcast that the only place he loves is WWE. He loves the wrestling business, but the WWE is his true love. This is all he cares about. He doesn't care about any other company. He just cares about this one, which is fine. But what he said is that he loves the business. He would do whatever he can to try and be as dynamic as possible. He can't please everybody, which I do understand. That is true. But what he said is absolute bullshit. Is that only thing I care about is making sure if I see some kid out there and he is inspired for what I've done and how I care about them and how I want them to have good ethics and hustle, loyalty, and respect. That's one of the most important things to me. Now, he didn't say directly hustle, loyalty, and respect. He just wanted them to understand how to pick them up, how to inspire them, how to motivate them for what he does and what he says. Now, here's the bullshit about this. There's nothing wrong with it. But he's not Ricky the fucking Dragon Steamboat. Sorry for my language, but you get my point. Comparing Ricky the Dragon Steamboat to John Cena. They kind of had similar rises to a certain extent. Ricky was a heel when he first came out. and I believe it was in AWA. The very first time he was pretty much a heel. But it didn't last very long. He switched to a face and he's never switched back. John Cena went to a heel. Then when he came to WWE, went to a face. Then he went to a heel again with the Chain Gang and Dr. Thugonomics. Then he switched to a face and he's never looked back. He cannot be compared to Ricky the Dragon. Another thing about him and Ricky the Dragon. From all the years Ricky has ever wrestled, and it was in the NWA, the AWA, the WWCW, the WWF, the WWE. Well, before he went there, WCW. He never changed his character, and the younger fans loved him, the older fans loved him, and the ones that were in between loved him. Generally, they loved him. They never really generally booed the man because the look, the attitude, and the wrestling was top notch. He was a five-tool guy. He had the charisma, he had the talent, he could go in the ring as a general, he could talk well on the mic. All that mess. John doesn't have that. John has maybe 3, maybe 4 tools in his box. He has the right look. He has, to a certain extent, charisma. He has a good ring work when he wants to. He can go in the ring to a certain extent. He's not great. He's a big, bulky guy. They never go well in the ring. As a ring presence, he's well known enough now that he has a good presence. Doesn't mean it's a great one, but it's a good one. But he's still not a Ricky the Dragon. And I believe he's kind of patterning him, kind of emulating Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, that he was the type of person that was a great, good guy that wanted to stay one no matter what. And for the credit of Vince, he kept Ricky that way because he could see that he had all the tools necessary to maintain that and truly make sure that it stayed that way. With John, even he said it. They weren't even sure if they wanted to keep him. He went on the first match with Kurt Angle because The Undertaker was hurt or had some type of problem. They threw him out there and cut his fucking hair off. John just cannot be compared to Ricky. And John saying that I've done my best to be dynamic and to be variated is a lie. He has not varied his character substantially once in almost 7 years. The closest we got was between him and The Rock. And I'm glad he did say honestly how he felt about The Rock. Having the problem with The Rock. Having the animosity with The Rock because he wanted to come back. He wanted to act like Dwayne Johnson. But he wanted The Rock. He didn't want some pale comparison of who he used to be in 2003, 2004. He wanted the fucking Rock to rock with him, to fuck him over. And for him to fuck him back. In other words, to have some type of feud. So I will say, I respect him for at least varying himself enough to show his aggression, his animosity to The Rock. But other than that, we haven't gotten anything else. And to be honest, that isn't what we deserve. I'll say it in this respect. John Cena does not need to go 100% heel. He doesn't. He doesn't even need to show heelish tendency. But John Cena has been booked so strong for so long and has jobbed in such a way that makes it impossible for anyone to ever believe that if he does make his character so varied, that we would ever believe it's real. That's the major problem I see with John Cena. It's not the fact that he can't vary his character because he wants to say a good guy for the kids. That's fine. If he wants to emulate Ricky the Dragon, he can. Because that's who he's really emulating, no matter if he says it or not. But the thing is this. As long as he's booked the way he is, he will never look like someone who the older or the let's say the fans between 18 to 34 and the fans between 34 to 60 would ever believe in, would ever believe and be interested in. Yeah, they'll be saying, well, he's cool with the kids. Fine. But he still fucking sucks. As long as he's booked the way he is, there'll be no way anyone's ever going to believe or even care about him that boo for him right now. If they stop booking him the way they do, and then he starts actually showing a little bit of progression, a little bit of change, people would actually buy it. But as long as he is the way he is, that's never going to happen. But when it came down to this podcast, seeing some of the questions that were thrown at him, the Undertaker never was mentioned, which I think was a big loss. Something should have been mentioned about it, because people want to see, if it's not Undertaker versus Sting, it's got to be John Cena versus The Undertaker. That is a match, if it never happens, will be the most stupidest thing that's ever happened. Something that should have been mentioned. Him talking about how the business is progressing. I respect it, that his view is actually not too bad. But seeing that he has a similar view to Vince and Kenny McMahon, and that they are varied, doesn't give me a lot of confidence, because how much of a variation is Vince compared to John? Is it this much of a variance, or this? Because let's be honest here, one of the reasons why the WWE is in the can right now, even though it's still very popular, is because Vince doesn't see the changes in the media and in the crowd. He doesn't. And it's one of the reasons why we have such a bad problem really building up new talent. Roman Reigns, Ryback, Seth Rollins, even though he is getting a rub, no guarantee that's going to last long. Daniel Bryan, things like that, people like that. Those are the things I really believe that is not really being understood. But that's just my point of view. What is yours? So I hope you enjoyed this debate of the week. Please give me a comment below. Tell me how you feel about the podcast if you saw it. Because there was a lot of content in there that John spoke about that he cared about. And like I said, you can respect the man. He has worked in the ring for years. He has done a decent job in some cases to give us something interesting. But do you really believe that he has progressed his character over the last 7 years? I don't believe that. It's a big fucking lie. And he doesn't want to say to Vince, I think it's time to let off on me being on top. Mainly because if I'm not on top, I'm not getting a lot of money. But that's if he would say that. If he's truly that passionate, he needs to be booked differently. That's how I feel. And I hope you feel it too. Have a good day and have a good night. Peace!